When I was a young boy, I sold my soul to the devil. I know it sounds crazy, but I truly have come to believe that we sign away our rights and freedoms to our demons, one piece of unwritten legislation at a time. Now, by the end of this video, you're going to believe in Lucifer, or at least in the existence of the forces of good and evil within every heart and every choice, in the existence of the spiritual realm that science and psychology attempt to bring tangible rhyme and reason to. Now, the way I see it, throughout our lives, we sign our names to contracts that are slid into our mailboxes by the devil and his associates every day. I think that some of us are more susceptible to falling for these documents and their fine print than others, often due to the differences in both our nature and nurture. For example, if we are brought up in an unstable, toxic environment, lacking healthy examples and guidance, we will be far more likely to sign off on bad contracts that we don't fully understand. Our demons are smart. They watch and they learn. They are like invisible private investigators lurking in dark corners, staking out your home, lying in wait to catch you slipping so that they can collect evidence and build a case against you in order to blackmail and extort you later. They are smart. They don't come breaking down your front door with eviction papers in hand or an arrest warrant. That's not how they get you. They get you with enticing offers and contracts and lottery tickets. Think of phishing emails trying to scam you. They want you to type in your information so that they can steal it and use it against you. They will play to your weaknesses. They will feed your ego or poke at your insecurities. They are looking for little concessions, little confessions, little crimes against your own humanity. They hide invoices in your mailbox. They hide terms and conditions in the fine print of your choices. And if we are not careful, conscious, and vigilant, we end up signing our lives away piece by piece until we are no longer able to find peace. See what I did there? Now, in all seriousness, what you feed will grow. Even the things that you feed in secret. It's like the old Cherokee story of the two wolves. As the story goes, an old wise man was telling his grandson about the battle that is constantly going on inside of all people. What he said was, "My son, there is a battle raging inside us between two wolves. First is the bad wolf, who is filled with feelings of anger, resentment, pride, greed, and self-pity. And the other is the good wolf, who is filled with kindness, empathy, humility, and compassion." And when the grandson asked which wolf wins, the wise man replied, "The one that you feed." Now, before we continue on, allow me to make you aware of the self-awareness building tool that I've published for you. It is a 40-day self-discovery workbook filled with questions and quotes that I have compiled to help you recalibrate your internal compass and connect your mind, heart, and spirit in a way that you may have not explored before. I will link it in the description. Feel free to check it out. But speaking of mind, body, and spirit, I don't know how many of you are up for the walk into the spiritual realm, but it has become as real to me as male pattern baldness. I truly believe that what we do in the visible world manifests in the unseen world and vice versa. As above, so below. It's like we all start with a clean slate when we are born, but over the years, the chains, the ropes, the demons all increase, some of which other people and experiences place on us, and others we place on ourselves. I mean, how did I go from a young man who once upon a time just wanted to be a good, faithful man, husband and father, become a liar, a thief, a cheater, and an addict? Well, I'll tell you, it was one contract at a time, one meal fed to the bad wolf after another. Maybe I started off lying about small things for innocent enough reasons, like trying to avoid punishment as a kid, or trying to avoid social rejection and find acceptance and validation with my peers. I remember the first thing I ever stole was a couple of coins from my mother's purse. And then it was a stick of chapstick at the store. And then one day I found myself figuring out how many people left their cars unlocked at night. Like I said, one contract to my demons at a time, until it was like my conscience stopped talking altogether. Like I no longer had power over the bad wolf, but it now had power over me and was beginning to consume me. And then women came into the picture. I was not a cheater at first. I actually remember being betrayed and cheated on and hurt in my earliest relationships. And that's not to make excuses for the choices that I began to make. I became the monster. Lust, sexual validation, and pain are a hell of a mixture. Women really do have the power to overthrow kingdoms. They have the power to destroy even the mightiest of men. In the Bible, Proverbs 31:3 says, "Do not spend your strength on women, on those who destroy kings." A lot of us men set women as our true north, and then we wonder why we end up lost. And now with modern access to pornography, many men are signing contract after contract to the demons of lust and deceit in a way that has never existed before. It's actually kind of hard to imagine that even the most undesirable, detestable men in the world have more access to women and lust and depravity than Genghis Khan. Do not take what I'm saying here lightly. Due to pornography and technology, the average man today is faced with more temptation and lust in principle than emperors and kings of old, and it's only getting worse. I digress. I personally handed over so much power in the spiritual world that it actually began to manifest physically. This is how I believe coping mechanisms and addictions grow in power. This is how the devil gets a foothold. Now, unlike gluttony, which manifests physically as obesity, you can't really see lust and deceit when you look at someone. We all have unseen struggles, battles that no one knows about, and when we start to lose the invisible fights, they begin to bleed over into the physical realm, into our lives and relationships. So, as I became a man who could juggle multiple monogamous relationships with women, spinning webs of lies, drinking daily from the cup of validation and lust, I also began to suffer from night terrors. For years, I would wake up in cold sweats, shoot straight up in the middle of the night, gasping for air several times a week. I started medicating myself before bed. I started to struggle with these depressive episodes. I would play video games for hours upon hours, nearly every day. All I wanted to do was escape, to stay stimulated or numb in one way, shape, or form. Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you all a story that might sound a little bit crazy. I actually wasn't sure if I was going to share this or not, but what the hell. Maybe you will believe me, and maybe you won't. But to this day, I swear that one night I was lying in bed in that space between sleeping and awake, unconscious and conscious, and suddenly I was awake, but I was standing on my feet on the other side of the room. But beside my bed, there stood a dark figure, a shadow that was shaped like a woman, but the hair was flowing around like Medusa. And when this shadow motioned for me to come closer, I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, but my feet just slid across the floor towards it. And then snap, I was back in my bed, frozen with terror. I actually can't even explain the feeling this left me with, but I know in my heart that what I saw that night was a physical manifestation of the spiritual world, that this was the spirit of lust and deceit that I had been sacrificing to, and now it possessed power over me. And that was the night I knew I needed to change. Now that change has not been linear, and it did not happen overnight. Breaking free from a spiritual and psychological prison of our own creation is extremely difficult work. I actually believe that it's harder to heal from the things that we have done than the things that have been done to us, because the things we have done speak more to who we are than the things that have been done to us. So I hope this is all making sense, because this is what I think a lot of people are unknowingly doing to varying degrees. And I think we all have different levels of what would be considered a rock bottom and different weaknesses. And I think people who are isolated from healthy connection and community are the most vulnerable. But This is what people are doing every single day, selling out on their integrity and signing their souls over to the devil. Every choice feeds either the good wolf or the bad wolf, and you can find this happening everywhere. For example, the girl who chooses to date for money and materialism, she is signing a contract to greed. Maybe it started off as a desire for safety and security, and maybe at first it felt wrong to accept expensive gifts from men that she didn't even actually like. But over time, power, greed, and vanity and selfishness begin to take hold. Or how about all of the men who are addicted to pornography, sacrificing at these altars of lust, shame, and guilt every day until they become slaves, and the consequences manifest physically as isolation, erectile dysfunction, dopamine desensitization, and it begins to erode the very fabric of their real life relationships. I believe this is how the 7 deadly sins work. Pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. When we allow them in, we choose them. We sign our identities over to them, one contract at a time. We begin to deny and turn away from the men and women that God created us to be, and instead sell ourselves to what the devil convinces us that we are. I know I sold my soul, and taking it back has not been easy, but it's possible.